Danjuma Company Chambers, Victoria Island, Lagos. The 14th floor of Danjuma Company. Chambers sparkled under brilliant white lighting. Though it was almost midnight, towering glass panels offered a sweeping view of Lagos's glittering skyline, from the Lekki Bridge lights flickering in the distance to the quiet glows of Banana Island villas. Inside, polished marble floors and velvet-draped hallways whispered wealth and authority. Olivia, dressed in her gray cleaning uniform, with the company logo barely clinging to her breast pocket, pushed her squeaky cart down the hallway. The faint scent of disinfectant trailed behind her, mixing with the lemon polish fragrance lingering in the air. Though her uniform was worn and stained in some corners, her posture was upright, her eyes sharp, brown and bright, filled with the quiet fire of a woman with dreams. She paused outside the massive conference room where a soft buzz of laughter, accented with clinking wine glasses and murmured Yoruba English conversations, spilled into the hallway. The law firm was hosting yet another late-night celebration. No doubt a deal had closed, perhaps one worth billions. Olivia didn't lean closer out of nosiness. She simply stood for a moment, letting the sounds wrap around her, anchoring her to the world she yearned to belong to, the world of polished lawyers and sleek suits and fluent arguments. A world she had dreamt of since she was a girl growing up in a cramped two-room, face-me-I-face-you apartment in Ahigon. From her bag tucked under the cart, she pulled out a dog-eared law textbook, Droit International. Written entirely in French, it had been borrowed from the community library in Sur-L'air. Olivia had taught herself French at 16, encouraged by her Beninese grandmother, who raised her after her mother died of complications from childbirth. Her grandmother always said, "Knowledge is what nobody can take from you." Olivia believed her. She turned a page and whispered aloud the complex legal terms, her pronunciation careful and practiced, prayers in another language. Suddenly, the conference room door burst open. Startled, Olivia dropped the book. It fell with a soft thud against the marble. A tall man stepped out, dressed in an impeccably tailored navy blue suit. His rich brown skin glowed faintly under the light. He was striking, lean, powerful, polished. Liam Danjuma, CEO of Danjuma Company Chambers, son of the late legal tycoon and former Minister of Justice, Fola Danjuma. In Lagos's elite circles, he was known as a legal prodigy, and also cold-hearted, ruthless, brilliant, untouchable. His eyes, dark and unblinking, swept over Olivia and landed on the fallen book. "What's this?" he said, voice smooth but sharp like broken glass. "Stealing confidential material during your shift?" Heart pounding. Olivia bent quickly to retrieve the book. "No, sir, it's mine." Liam's eyebrow lifted with disdain. He took a step closer, reading the cover. "Droit International," he muttered. "A janitor reading French international law?" He chuckled. The sound had no humor in it. "Is this some kind of act? Trying to impress someone?" Olivia stood straighter, clutching the book to her chest. "No, sir. I read because I want to learn, that's all." There was a flicker in Liam's gaze. Not warmth, something closer to intrigue, like a cat watching an unexpected mouse do a trick. "To learn," he said, stepping to the side. "To clean offices more efficiently?" Behind him, the muffled voices of his legal team grew louder. The celebration continued, but he hadn't gone back inside. "Come," he said suddenly, pointing toward the conference room. "Since you want to sound smart, let's test it." Olivia froze. "Sir, I'm not allowed in there." Liam's lips curved slightly, a smirk rather than a smile. "And yet you're standing here pretending you could be." Her pride warred with her fear, but in the end it was the dreamer inside her who stepped forward. She walked in, shoulders squared, her book still in her grip. The air inside was thick with expensive perfume, tension, and wine. 7 lawyers in designer suits sat around a gleaming mahogany table. Papers, contracts, and a half-finished bottle of Moet were scattered about. At the far end, Mr. Bassi, an older attorney, was explaining a complex clause to a guest from a French petroleum firm. Liam raised his voice over the chatter. "Gentlemen, we have a special guest tonight, our in-house expert." He motioned toward Olivia. "She claims to read international law in French. Let's see how far the act goes." He tossed a thick legal document toward her, opened to a dense section. "Translate this," he said, tone mocking. "If you're as brilliant as you think, show us." Laughter rippled across the room. Someone muttered, "This should be good." Olivia's palms were damp, her ears rang, but she stepped forward and placed her book on the table beside the contract. Her eyes scanned the page, her lips moved softly. Then her voice rose, clear, articulate, and steady. Clause 14.2 states that Party A agrees to transfer control of the assets within 90 days of signing, provided that Party B completes payment in full before the due date. She paused, then looked directly at Liam. "But there's a problem." The room fell quiet. Liam's brow furrowed. "Problem?" Olivia nodded, pointing to a footnote at the bottom of the page. "This part is mistranslated in your English version. In French it says, Party A can reclaim the assets and charge a 20% penalty if Party B defaults. But the English draft only includes asset reclamation, no mention of the penalty clause." The lawyers froze. Mr. Bassi snatched the document, his face draining of color. "She's right," he muttered. "This would have cost us millions if the deal collapsed. Who approved this translation?" Chairs scraped, voices rose, and the celebration buzz vanished into professional panic. Liam stood motionless. His eyes bore into Olivia's face, but not with mockery now. There was something else, unspoken, deep. She had just saved the firm from a catastrophic oversight. Still, he straightened his shoulders and said coolly, "Impressive, but don't mistake this for a promotion. You're a cleaner, nothing more." Olivia didn't flinch. "You dragged me in here," she said, her voice low but steady. "I didn't ask to prove anything, but don't challenge people if you're scared of the truth." And with that, she picked up her book, turned, and pushed her card out the room, leaving behind stunned silence, stunned faces, and one CEO standing there with his pride cracked open. Liam Danjuma remained rooted to the spot, staring at the door. He hadn't felt this kind of disruption in years. Not since he was a boy in a Buddha Metta, mocked by teachers for dreaming of Harvard Law. That boy had promised to rise so high no one would ever look down on him again. And now here he was, on the top floor of Victoria Island's most prestigious law firm, humbled by a girl with calloused palms and a law book in French. But he wouldn't admit it, not yet, not to her, not even to himself. Danjuma Company Chambers, Liam's private office, Victoria Island, Lagos. The low hum of the air conditioner filled the silence of the CEO's corner office. A dim desk lamp threw soft light on legal texts and a sleek MacBook. The skyline of Lagos stretched beyond the massive glass windows. Third mainland bridge in the distance. Traffic lights flickering like restless stars. Liam Danjuma leaned back in his Italian leather chair, eyes fixed on his laptop. The screen glowed with an HR file he had pulled barely an hour after that unforgettable encounter in the conference room. He wasn't sure why he had requested it. Maybe curiosity. Maybe that quiet, fierce look in Olivia's eyes. The look of someone who had tasted struggle and still dared to speak. He murmured the name slowly under his breath. Olivia. She was 25. No prestigious university listed on her record, but she had graduated with first-class honors in law from Lagos City Polytechnic, a name most people in his world wouldn't even glance twice at. No recommendations from elite firms. Just a long list of odd jobs: waitress at a suya spot in Surulere, part-time French tutor, janitorial staff. He scrolled further. A note stood out. Nominated for a full scholarship to the University of Lagos School of Law. Declined due to family medical responsibilities. Liam froze. Declined? Who declines Unilag Law with a full scholarship? He opened a new tab, typing quickly. Social media yielded little. A dormant Facebook account, one tagged image with an elderly woman in an IRO and booba. The caption read, "For all the nights you stayed awake for me, I'll make you proud, Grandma." He stared at it, the words biting something raw inside him. A memory flashed. He was 17 again, in a Buddha Metta, hunched over textbooks at 2 a.m., while his mother worked night shifts at a hospital in Yaba. She never asked him for straight A's. She just asked him to promise never to let life make him small. She died 2 weeks before his graduation from Harvard. He hadn't cried. He had buried his grief in ambition and built an empire from it. But now Olivia, this girl in a faded uniform who translated international law better than his senior associates, had brought something back to life. Something he thought he had lost. He closed the laptop and exhaled slowly. The night outside was still, but his thoughts raged like the Lagos Lagoon after a storm. The next morning, Olivia stood outside the HR office. Her palms were sweaty, her shoulders stiff with tension. A formal message had summoned her here. Overstepping boundaries, it had read. She wasn't naive. She knew what this was. Liam Danjuma hadn't expected her to outshine his entire legal team, and now he wanted her gone. Still, she walked in. Behind the mahogany desk sat Mrs. Edifi, the firm's HR director, mid-days 40s, always composed in her gel, in perfectly ironed Ankara blouse. To the side, standing by the window with his arms folded, was Liam. The sunlight framed him like a painting. Sharp jaw, clean lines, unreadable expression. "Miss Olivia," Mrs. Edifi began, voice firm, "you disrupted a senior-level client meeting without authorization. This behavior is grounds for disciplinary action, even termination." Olivia felt the heat rise in her neck, but she kept her tone even. "I didn't disrupt anything. Mr. Danjuma brought me into that room himself." Mrs. Adafi turned to Liam, waiting. He unfolded his arms, walked slowly toward the desk, and spoke, voice cool as granite. "You're very good at defending yourself, but the truth is, you don't belong in that room. You're a cleaner, not a lawyer." His words struck like a whip. Olivia clenched her fists, digging her nails into her palms to keep herself from trembling. "I didn't ask to be in that room," she said, staring him down. "You pulled me in. You tested me. I passed. If your firm can't handle that, the problem isn't mine." Silence wrapped around the room like thick velvet. Even Mrs. Adaf looked momentarily unsure. Liam stepped closer. There was something in his eyes now, no longer cold, but curious. Maybe even conflicted. "You've got confidence," he murmured, "but confidence doesn't keep you in this building." "I don't need your permission to believe in myself," Olivia replied. "I've worked too hard to apologize for knowing what I know." He paused, just long enough for the tension to stretch like a pulled thread. Then he turned away, walking back to the window. "You may go." Olivia didn't wait. She walked out of the office with her head high, her steps firm, even though her heart felt like it might shatter at any moment. That night in his office once again, Liam sat staring at her file. A whiskey glass sat untouched beside him. He reopened the last line in the HR record. "Declined scholarship due to caring for critically ill grandmother." His jaw tightened. At 18, his mother had been diagnosed with cancer. He had chosen Harvard over staying back in Lagos. That decision had taken him to the top, but it had also cost him the chance to say goodbye. Olivia had made the opposite choice. She had stayed. Liam leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on the city outside. It sparkled, but for the first time it felt empty. Olivia had reminded him of a younger version of himself, the part he had buried beneath bespoke suits and hardened ambition. And though he wasn't ready to admit it aloud, one truth had become crystal clear. She was more than a cleaner. She was a mirror. A painful, brilliant reminder of the boy who once dared to dream not just of power, but of justice. For the next week, Olivia kept her head down. She mopped the same floors, cleaned the same glass doors, polished the same tables she now saw differently. Because every time she pushed her cleaning cart past the 14th floor conference room, she could still hear their laughter, the tension, the stunned silence after she'd spoken. It haunted her, but not with fear, with clarity. They hadn't forgotten her. She could feel it in the way junior lawyers now looked twice when she passed. She caught whispers. "That's the one from the French claws incident." Even the guards at the gate had started to nod respectfully. But none of that paid her rent. So Olivia continued working, kept her bag zipped with the law book still inside, still took notes on legal terms during her 15-minute break beside the mop closet. She still had dreams. And bills. Meanwhile, Liam Danjuma tried to keep his mind on his latest acquisition, a Lagos-based fintech startup with promising offshore accounts. The deal needed his full attention. Nigerian investors were skeptical, and one wrong move could tarnish Danjuma's reputation. But something distracted him, constantly. It wasn't the market, it wasn't the merger. It was her, Olivia. The name echoed more than it should have in his head. He didn't like it. Distraction wasn't his thing. He'd been raised on order, precision, and legacy. His father was known for winning a landmark oil spill case that changed Nigerian environmental law. His grandfather had founded the very building Liam now ran. And yet, here he was, wondering if a cleaning lady had eaten that day, if she had gone home to electricity or darkness, if her dreams had already died, or were simply waiting for a miracle. That unsettled him. One evening, he lingered by the security desk long after hours. "Where does the cleaner girl live?" he asked his head of building security without looking up from his phone. The man hesitated. "Which one, sir?" Liam glanced up sharply. "The French-speaking one." "Ah, Olivia. She stays somewhere in Lekki Phase 1, sir. Small flat, I think. She always takes the 8 p.m. bus from Ozumba Mbadawe." Liam nodded, dismissing him. But something in him had already moved. That same night, Olivia sat on the edge of a thin mattress on the tiled floor of her modest Lekki Phase 1 apartment. The room was small but neat, 2 potted plants on the windowsill, a second-hand fan whirring overhead, and her grandmother's photo framed on the wall. She was reviewing an online case study, an old land dispute verdict, on a cracked phone screen when her neighbor knocked. "Generator fuel finish," the woman said, balancing a toddler on her hip. "Light dongo." Olivia sighed. "I'll send 500 to your phone. Just buy 1 liter. We'll manage." The woman smiled, grateful. "God go bless you." When the door closed, Olivia sat in the dark for a while, staring into the silence. The law textbook sat on her lap like a promise she kept making to herself. Someday she would wear the robe. Someday she would argue a case in court. Someday she would stop surviving and start living. But tonight wasn't that day. The next morning at Danjuma Company, a junior associate named Kenneth approached Olivia during her break. "Hey," he said, fiddling with the cuffs of his pinstripe shirt. "I heard what you did last week. That French thing. It was mad impressive." Olivia blinked. "Thank you." He paused, uncertain. "Listen, there's this seminar on intellectual property law next Saturday. It's virtual, but they'll stream it at Civic Center. I have an extra ticket." Her heart leapt. "A legal seminar?" Her face lit up before she could hide it. "I'd love to attend." "Cool," Kenneth said, handing her the printed invite. "See you there." He walked off, and Olivia clutched the paper like a treasure. She didn't notice the pair of eyes watching from behind the tinted glass of the boardroom. Liam had seen the entire exchange. He didn't know what annoyed him more, Kenneth's awkward flirting or the fact that Olivia had smiled so genuinely. That smile wasn't for him. And for some reason, that made him feel unreasonably possessive. He shook his head. This was ridiculous. He was Liam Danjuma, CEO, billionaire, Lagos's youngest senior partner in any top-tier firm. He didn't get flustered over staff, especially not janitors. But then again, Olivia wasn't ordinary. She didn't belong to any box. Not rich, not poor, not fragile, not loud, just dangerous in a quiet, unexpected way. And that made her unforgettable. Later that afternoon, as Olivia was finishing up in the CEO's office, vacuuming near his bookshelves, she felt a shift in air behind her. She turned, and there he was. Liam. No warning, no security, just him, standing, watching her. "Leave it," he said, referring to the vacuum. "I want to speak with you." She slowly switched off the machine. "Yes, sir." He walked over, pulling something from his inner blazer pocket. A sleek white envelope. "For you." She took it, cautiously, slid out the card. It was an official invite, to a Danjuma company internal legal workshop. Not a cleaner's event. A lawyer's. She stared at it. I don't understand. You have legal potential, Liam said, hands in his pockets, voice even. If you're going to work in my building, I want to see what else you're capable of. She swallowed hard. Sir, this is too much. No, he said, stepping closer. What would be too much is wasting what you have. They stood facing each other. For the first time, no hierarchy, no labels. Just two people who had fought their way through the cracks. Then he said something that startled them both. You remind me of who I was, before power turned me into this. Her lips parted, stunned, but before she could respond, he turned and walked away. No further explanation. Just silence, and the quiet thrill of doors beginning to open. The Civic Center auditorium sparkled with chandeliers and the soft hum of classical music as young legal minds filled the velvet seats. The event's theme glowed on the LED screen, the future of intellectual property in emerging markets. Among the crisp suits and polished heels stood Olivia in a navy blue midi dress she had bought from a second-hand boutique in Yaba. She had ironed it 3 times that morning. Her hair was neatly braided into a low bun. No makeup, just clear lip balm and fierce determination. She didn't belong here, not by pedigree, but she belonged by merit. As speakers discussed landmark copyright rulings and tech litigation in Africa, Olivia took notes with the same focus she once used to memorize bus routes and grocery prices. Then she saw him, Liam Danjuma, in a black tuxedo jacket tailored to perfection, seated in the VIP section like he owned the air. His expression was unreadable. A few attendees nudged each other, whispering his name like legend. He hadn't told her he'd be here. Was it a coincidence? Or something else? Their eyes met only once, brief but electric. She looked away first. Later, during the networking session, Kenneth, the junior associate who had invited her, introduced her to a few lawyers from Abuja. They were kind, curious about her insights on copyright law, especially how it applied to street vendors and local artisans. She held her own, spoke clearly, smiled, listened. But even as praise flowed her way, she felt a presence nearby, watching, measuring. Liam never approached. Yet his absence was louder than any applause. The next morning, a notice awaited her when she arrived at the office. She was being temporarily reassigned, from cleaning general floors to servicing the executive penthouse floor alone. No reason, no explanation, just a new key card and a quiet shift in power. She stepped into the top floor that afternoon, quiet, regal, untouched, floor-to-ceiling glass, a private kitchen. His office at the end of a long hallway, silent like a cathedral. She cleaned with trembling fingers, wondering what game he was playing. Then the door creaked open. Liam stood there. No jacket, sleeves rolled, tie loosened, far less guarded than usual. You're early, he said. I was told to clean this floor. He stepped aside. Then clean. Olivia worked in silence, mopping slowly, but he didn't leave. Instead, he poured a drink and sat on the couch watching her. Not in a predatory way. In a contemplative one. Why law? He asked suddenly. She glanced at him. Because it gives voice to people who don't have one. He nodded quietly. And yet you're mopping floors. I can clean floors and chase dreams at the same time, she replied. He smiled for the first time, not a smirk, a genuine, soft smile. That's rare. Then silence again. But this time it was charged, thick with something unspoken. And dangerous. 2 nights later, the sky over Lagos rumbled with an incoming storm. Olivia waited at the Lekki bus stop, clutching her umbrella, when a black Range Rover rolled up beside her. The window rolled down. It was him. Liam. Get in, he said. She blinked. Why? You shouldn't be standing here alone at night. I do this every day. Well, today's different. Against her better judgment, she slid into the leather seat. The silence in the car was heavier than the storm clouds. He glanced at her as they drove through the rain. You live around here? Off Admiralty Road, small flat, nothing fancy. He nodded. You always this calm? I don't have the luxury to panic. His grip on the steering wheel tightened. They arrived at her compound. He parked but didn't speak, just looked at her. And finally he said something that made her chest tighten. You make me want to remember who I used to be. She opened the door. And you make me question everything I thought I knew. He caught her hand before she stepped out. The contact was brief, innocent almost, but the world tilted just a little. Good night, Olivia, he said, voice rougher than usual. She stepped into the rain, heart pounding. A line had been crossed. Not physically, emotionally. And it was only a matter of time before something broke. The Lagos Island courtroom. Monday came with its usual chaos, phones ringing, printers buzzing, heels clicking on marble. But something had shifted in the air, at least for Olivia. Ever since that night in the Range Rover, her world felt heavier, as though something invisible had been unlocked and couldn't be shut again. She avoided eye contact with Liam Danjuma even when delivering files to his office. But it didn't stop her from feeling his gaze whenever she was near. It wasn't lustful. It was searching, like he was trying to find a version of himself in her reflection. And that was more dangerous than anything. Midweek, Danjuma Company took on a high-profile court case involving a major Lagos property developer accused of evicting tenants illegally. The hearing was at Lagos Island Court, and Olivia was tasked with accompanying the legal interns to assist with paperwork. Her heart raced as she entered the courtroom, not because of fear, but because she was finally in a place where she belonged. She sat quietly behind the legal team, arranging case files, observing the strategy. She understood every motion, every objection, every legal term thrown across the courtroom like knives. She mouthed rebuttals under her breath, imagined herself at the plaintiff's desk. Liam arrived late but made an entrance. Charcoal gray agbada, sleek cap, calm swagger. The whole room adjusted to his presence like dancers to a rhythm. He noticed Olivia the moment he stepped in. Their eyes met. For just a heartbeat, the courtroom disappeared. Back at the office, late into the evening, Olivia returned to the 14th floor to finish up a cleaning round. Most of the staff had gone home. The glow of the city reflected across the wide office windows like stars trapped in glass. She didn't expect to find Liam still at his desk. But there he was. Tie off, sleeves rolled, fingers digging into his temples as if trying to press the pressure away. He didn't see her at first, so she stood silently, unsure whether to leave or speak. Then he broke the silence. I lost the motion today. Her eyes widened. You rarely lose. He chuckled, bitter. I don't lose because I don't trust anyone. I did today. I let someone else write the final brief. Mistake. She stepped forward slowly. Even great lawyers lose sometimes. You'll recover. He looked up at her, and suddenly the mask slipped. I envy you, Olivia. She blinked. Me? You still believe in justice, in fairness. I've been doing this too long. I only believe in leverage. She hesitated, then said softly, then maybe you're not doing it the right way anymore. A pause. Long, vulnerable. Then he rose from the desk, walked toward her. They were barely a foot apart. No words. Just two people on opposite ends of power and pain, staring into the same fire. Why do I feel like I knew you in another life? Liam asked, voice low. Maybe because I remind you of everything you buried, Olivia said. Her tone was steady, but her hands were shaking. He reached out, slowly, carefully, and tucked a stray braid behind her ear. Her breath caught. Then he stepped back, as if shocked by his own audacity. I should go, she whispered. You should stay, he replied. But he didn't touch her again. She turned and walked out of the office, heart thudding so loudly it drowned out the sound of her footsteps. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. The city was loud, generators, car horns, neighbors' TV blaring, but inside her tiny flat, all she could hear was his voice. Oh, you remind me of everything I buried. She curled up on the mattress, phone screen still lit with a Harvard Law blog she had been reading. The article was about second chances, and for the first time she wondered, was Liam her second chance? Or a beautiful mistake waiting to happen? 2 weeks passed. 2 painfully silent, emotionally loud weeks. Olivia continued her routine on the executive floor, cleaning glass, organizing files, pretending nothing had changed. But the stolen glances, the electricity in the air, the unfinished tension between her and Liam Danjuma was no longer hidden. It was felt by everyone. The front desk whispered. The security guards exchanged loaded stares. Even Mrs. Idafe in HR narrowed her eyes whenever Olivia walked past the elevators. Something was brewing, and it was only a matter of time before it exploded. One evening, Olivia stayed late to clean the private conference suite. Liam had already left, or so she thought. As she dusted the long table, the door creaked open behind her. She turned. He stood there, jacket slung over his shoulder, shirt unbuttoned at the collar. No security, no assistant. Just him, and that stare that made her forget how to breathe. "You shouldn't stay late alone," he said, voice low. She gave a small shrug. "Quiet nights help me think." He stepped into the room and closed the door gently behind him. The sound echoed like a promise. "Do you think about us?" he asked bluntly. The words stunned her. They hung in the air like perfume, bold, intoxicating, dangerous. "There is no us," Olivia replied, though her voice trembled. His eyes searched hers. "Then why haven't you transferred floors? Why haven't you told HR to reassign you?" She opened her mouth, but no words came. Because she didn't know the answer. Because some part of her didn't want to leave. Liam took one slow step forward, then another, and another, until the space between them was too thin to hide behind. "I don't want to lie to myself anymore," he said, "and I don't want to lie to you either." Her heart thudded, and then he kissed her. Not a desperate kiss, a quiet, deep, searching kiss, like he was looking for every broken piece of himself inside her soul. She kissed him back. For a moment there was no logos, no class difference, no power dynamics. Just two people who shouldn't want each other, but did, desperately. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "I've tried to fight this," he whispered, "but I can't." She didn't respond, because she couldn't trust her voice. But she stayed. That was enough. The next morning, everything changed. She walked into the building like she always did, neutral face, pressed uniform. But the receptionist barely smiled. The elevator boy wouldn't meet her eyes. By the time she reached the 14th floor, a group of interns had gathered around a laptop, watching something with muffled gasps. Her chest tightened. One of them glanced up, eyes wide. "Olivia, you should see this." She approached the screen slowly, heart pounding. And then she saw it. Grainy CCTV footage of Liam entering the private conference room. And minutes later, her. Then a kiss. A kiss recorded without sound, but loud in meaning. Her world tilted. "Who leaked this?" she choked out. The intern shook his head. "It's all over staff WhatsApp groups. Someone hacked the surveillance system." She turned on her heel and ran. Straight to the executive floor. Straight to Liam's office. He was already standing, phone pressed to his ear, jaw tight with fury. He looked up the moment she burst in. "I didn't know there was a camera in that room," she said breathlessly. "There wasn't supposed to be," he replied. "That footage is illegal. Someone went out of their way to find it." "Why?" Her voice cracked. "To destroy me?" "To destroy me," he said. "You're just collateral damage." She backed away dizzy. "No, Liam, I'm not some background casualty in your perfect world." "I never said you were, but that's what this is, isn't it?" she snapped. "You'll fix the scandal, smooth it out. But I'm the one they'll label. The gold digger, the seductress, the cleaner who slept her way up." Silence. That was his mistake. He didn't deny it fast enough. And she saw the truth. He had feelings, but not enough to protect her name first. Tears welled in her eyes. I made a mistake. She turned and left before he could stop her. Back in her apartment, Olivia collapsed on the mattress, still wearing her uniform. Her phone vibrated with calls, messages, gossip, but she didn't answer. She stared at the ceiling, her heart breaking in 1,000 ways. She had climbed too close to the sun, and now she was burning. Danjuma Company boardroom, HR office, and Olivia's apartment. 2 days later, Olivia stepped in Danjuma Company for what she feared would be the last time. The whispers had grown louder. Conversations now paused when she entered the room. Her name floated in the hallways, wrapped in scandal and shame. To some, she was a cautionary tale. To others, an object of fascination. But none of them saw her. None of them saw the girl who scrubbed their toilets, who read legal text by torchlight, who had kept her dreams alive with nothing but grit. She walked straight into Mrs. Aduffy's HR office, where a familiar white envelope waited on the table. The director sighed before speaking. Olivia, this situation has become complicated. Am I being fired? Mrs. Aduffy flinched slightly. You're being let go for the time being. Officially, it's a suspension pending investigation. But let's not play games. You know what this is. Olivia nodded slowly. Will I get a letter? You'll receive a formal notice by the end of the day. There it was. No due process, no defense, no voice. Just a quiet shove toward the exit. She stood up, chin lifted. I only regret not keeping the door locked. Mrs. Aduffy raised an eyebrow. You regret being with him? No, Olivia replied. I regret thinking this place was built on merit. On her way out of the building, she passed Liam's office. The blinds were drawn, the door tightly shut. She didn't stop. If he wanted to find her, he knew where to look. But he didn't. Not that day. Not the next. And not the day after that. By Saturday, Olivia was curled up on the threadbare couch in her apartment, phone face down on the floor. The world was too loud. Twitter threads speculating about the billionaire CEO's secret affair, blog headlines calling her a janitor Jezebel, and one gossip page even posting a high school photo of her with the caption, "She aimed high, too high." Her chest ached, not because of the shame, but because Liam had said nothing. No statement, no apology, no visit. So this is how it ends, she thought. She was the girl who touched power and got burned. Elsewhere in Lagos, Liam Danjuma sat in his penthouse, whiskey glass untouched, laptop open to a news headline he couldn't look away from. The cleaner and the CEO, Danjuma's reputation at risk. He'd handled million-dollar lawsuits, corporate betrayals, mergers with ruthless precision. But nothing had prepared him for this. He had promised himself he wouldn't reach out, that she was safer out of his world. But watching her get torn apart online, that shattered something inside him. Then his phone buzzed. Ariana, his longtime board advisor, had messaged, "The shareholders want your resignation on the table. Clean this up or step down." He threw the phone against the wall. For the first time in his career, he was no longer in control. And all because of a kiss. A single, honest, dangerous kiss. That night, he called in his driver and told him to head to Lekki Phase 1. He didn't care about appearances anymore. She wasn't a mistake. She was his only truth. When he knocked on her door, Olivia didn't answer at first, but the knocking didn't stop. When she finally opened it, wearing a faded Ankara robe and no expression, she stared at him like he was a stranger. "What do you want?" He exhaled. "To fix this." She laughed, bitter, tired. "You want to fix your firm, your image, not me." "No," he said. "I want to fix us, if there's still an us to fix." "You left me to burn alone, Liam. I was trying to protect you. Then you don't understand me at all." Her voice cracked, but her spine stayed straight. "I don't need your money. I don't want your pity. I wanted you to fight for me." He stepped closer. I'm here now. She shook her head. It's too late. And before he could respond, she shut the door. But behind it, Olivia slid down and cried for everything that could have been and everything it never was. Olivia's apartment, Danjuma Company press conference room, national news broadcasts. By Sunday morning, Olivia had turned off her phone entirely. She needed silence, the kind that didn't buzz with betrayal or scream with digital noise, the kind of silence that allowed her to sit in grief and still breathe. Her curtains stayed drawn, her breakfast untouched, and her voice quiet. But deep inside, something was shifting. Not everything had been taken from her. She still had her mind, her knowledge, her strength. If they wanted to break her, they would have to try harder. Meanwhile, in a luxury hotel in Ikoyi, the board of Danjuma Company met in a closed-door emergency session. Your silence is damaging, Ariana, the firm's advisor, said to Liam, her voice sharp. You've let the narrative spin out of control. You're painted as the predator and she the desperate cleaner who used you. I'm not here to feed the press with lies, Liam replied. They're already eating lies. At least give them the truth. He looked up slowly. What if I did? Ariana blinked. You're not actually considering. I am, he said. She didn't seduce me. I pursued her. She didn't manipulate anyone. She worked harder than anyone in this firm. The room fell silent. And if that cost me my company, then maybe I built it on the wrong values. By Monday afternoon, a hush fell over the media. Liam Danjuma had called for a press conference. The room buzzed with journalists, bloggers, legal correspondents, and live streamers. Rumors flew like sparks. Some said he was resigning. Others said he was denying everything. But when Liam stepped up to the podium in a simple black suit, no tie, no smile, everyone went still. He spoke clearly. I have built Danjuma Company into one of the most powerful legal firms in West Africa. But today I want to speak not as a CEO, but as a man who made a choice. Whispers erupted. Cameras clicked wildly. I pursued a woman who worked for me, a woman who had no title, no wealth, and no protection. I saw her strength, her brilliance, her drive, and I was drawn to her. He paused. I did not protect her when the storm came, and for that, I am ashamed. He looked directly into the cameras. Her name is Olivia, and she is not the mistake in this story. I am. Gasps. Liam continued. I will not resign, because leadership is not about perfection. It's about accountability. But I will step back from client-facing roles and enroll every executive here, including myself, in a mandatory ethics restructuring program. One reporter shouted, Are you in love with her? Liam didn't flinch. Yes. The room exploded. Back in her small flat, Olivia stared at the screen. She couldn't breathe. He had said her name. Not the cleaner. Not the girl. Her name. She stood there frozen, hand pressed to her chest as if to hold her heart in place. He had done it. He had chosen her in front of the whole country. Later that evening, Olivia walked the dusty road to the nearby pharmacy to get cold water and something to soothe her splitting headache. The woman behind the counter, Mama Nkechi, who usually ignored her, smiled warmly. You be that lawyer girl, Abby? She said with a wink. Olivia blinked. I'm not a lawyer, yet. Not why I say girl, but one day you go be woman. The one way stand for court, defend justice, and break hearts. She laughed for the first time in days. When she returned home, a single envelope was waiting on her doorstep. No return address. She opened it. It was a handwritten letter. From Liam. Olivia, I don't know if I deserve your forgiveness, but I needed you to hear me when the world was watching, not behind closed doors where excuses live. You said you wanted me to fight for you. I hope I did. But even if you never speak to me again, know this, you changed me, and no scandal, no firm, no boardroom could ever compare to the truth of you. Liam. She clutched the letter to her chest. And for the first time since it all began, she smiled. not because of what she had gained, but because of who she had become. Radio Lagos interview room, Olivia's apartment, in Danjuma Company. Lobby. The following week, Radio Lagos 99.5 FM aired a special segment titled Beyond the Headlines, The Woman Behind the Scandal. At first, Olivia declined the interview. She didn't want to be a media puppet or a pity project. But the host, Miss Tola Martins, wasn't looking for gossip. She wanted Olivia's story. The real story. And Olivia was tired of silence. She arrived in a soft beige blouse and her hair in a sleek twist. No makeup, no PR team, just her. Authentic, grounded. The red on-air sign lit up. Tola leaned forward. Miss Olivia, the nation knows the scandal, but they don't know you. Who is Olivia? Olivia breathed in. I'm someone who cleans offices by day and studies legal briefs by night. I'm someone who dreams in color even though I live on a tight budget. I'm someone who wanted a seat at the table and ended up becoming the controversy instead. The phone lines lit up immediately. Tola asked gently, Did you love him? There was a pause. Then Olivia said, I admired him, respected him. Maybe I even loved who he was with me. But love is not enough if it comes at the cost of your voice. Tola nodded slowly. What do you want people to know? That I'm not a mistake, Olivia said. Her voice was clear. And that no woman should have to apologize for dreaming outside the boundaries society placed around her. By the end of the week, the interview had gone viral. Social media erupted, not with hate this time, but support. Hashtags like #Olivia Speaks and #She is not the mistake trended across Twitter and Instagram. Law students started quoting her. Single mothers, cleaners, security guards, ordinary people began tagging her story as their own. Meanwhile, back at Danjuma Company, things had shifted. The board voted to retain Liam as CEO, impressed by his transparency. Clients respected his brutal honesty, but behind every headline, there was one unresolved truth. He hadn't heard from her. Not since the letter. Not since the radio. And it haunted him. Then one Wednesday morning, something unexpected happened. Olivia walked back into the building, but not with a mop bucket. She wore a tailored navy skirt, a crisp white blouse, and flat court shoes. Her hair was braided neatly, her walk composed and unhurried. She approached the reception desk. I have an appointment with Mr. Danjuma. Gasps echoed across the lobby. The receptionist stammered. Yes, ma'am. You can go up. She took the elevator alone. When she entered Liam's office, he stood slowly, almost as if afraid to speak. You came, he said. I listened, she replied. Silence stretched between them like silk. He walked toward her slowly. You look like a storm I never want to escape. She smiled faintly. I didn't come for romance, Liam. He nodded, respecting the boundary. I came because I want something. Anything, he said. I want a job, not as a cleaner, not as your lover, as an intern. His brows rose. An intern? In your legal department. I've earned that much, and I won't let anyone think I got here by seduction. He stepped closer, pride in his eyes. You deserve more than an internship. But I'll start there, she said firm. I want to build on merit, on truth. He extended his hand. She shook it. And in that moment, two people once caught in scandal found something rarer than redemption. Respect. Danjuma Company legal floor, Landmark Center, and Banana Island. 6 months later, Olivia walked the polished halls of Danjuma Company with her head held high, not as a janitor, not as a scandal, but as a legal intern. Her ID badge read, Olivia O., legal intern, intellectual property unit. She earned it. She studied every night. She passed her law exams with distinction, and she fought every whisper with excellence. Some staff still watched her with quiet curiosity. Others had come to respect her journey. She wasn't just that girl anymore. She was becoming the woman everyone underestimated and would never forget. Meanwhile, Liam Danjuma kept his promise. He stepped back publicly but continued to mentor Olivia from afar. He never pushed, never hovered, He watched her grow with a kind of reverence, knowing he'd been part of her fire but never trying to own the flame. They rarely spoke at work, but outside of it, they began again, slowly, privately, one conversation at a time. One evening walk by the water, one shared bowl of ifo riro at a hidden ikoyi spot, one handwritten note slipped under her door. If love was a case, you'd win every appeal. On a warm Saturday in October, the Landmark Center hosted a legal awards gala. Olivia was nominated for the Young Visionary Award, an honor rarely given to interns. But her advocacy and national radio interview had sparked policy changes on ethical power dynamics in the workplace. She wore a floor-length emerald dress. Her hair was swept into a crown of braids. Her skin glowed with purpose. Liam arrived late, dressed in a sleek black tux. He stood at the back of the hall, arms folded, eyes only on her. When her name was announced, she walked onto the stage, not trembling, not unsure, ready. She took the mic and smiled. 6 months ago, I lost everything in a single moment. But what I've learned is that sometimes being broken is the first step to becoming whole. Applause thundered. But I want to thank someone, not for saving me, but for letting me save myself. Liam, you know who you are. The camera cut to him. He didn't move, just smiled, soft, proud, in awe. That night, in the silence of Banana Island, she stood on his balcony overlooking the Lagos skyline. He handed her a glass of wine. So what now? He asked. She looked at him, calm, powerful, whole. You once said I remind you of everything you buried, she said. He nodded. I think I'm finally ready to dig you out. And for the first time she kissed him, slow, assured, unafraid. There was no scandal now, no guilt, no shame, only truth, only love, only two equals, building a new future, together. 2 years later. The Danjuma estate was no longer a cold fortress of marble and steel. It had become a sanctuary. Birdsong replaced silence. The air now carried the scent of pepper soup, coconut wax candles, and fresh printouts from legal case files spread across the living room. Olivia, now barrister Olivia Danjuma, sat barefoot on the balcony in a flowing cream caftan, her glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed client notes for her next arbitration case. Her wedding band glimmered softly in the sunlight, simple, platinum, and elegant, just like her. Inside, Liam was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, attempting to replicate her late mother's stew recipe, and failing gloriously. You're burning it again, she called out without even looking up. I'm refining it, he replied. She laughed. It was a sound that used to be rare. Now it echoed in every corner of their lives. The journey to this point had been anything but perfect. But they chose each other, over fear, over shame, over everything society tried to define them by. When they married, it was at Ikoyi Registry, with only 6 people present. No paparazzi, no media circus. Just truth, just love. Olivia wore a soft off-shoulder white dress with golden beads embroidered at the waist. Liam wore a white senator suit with emerald cufflinks, her favorite color. Her sister, Ngozi, was the maid of honor. His best friend, Adamola, stood by his side. I don't want to own you, Liam had said that day, holding her hands tightly. I just want to walk beside you. Every day, no matter what comes. And I don't want to be your shadow, Olivia had replied, tears shining in her eyes. I want to be your mirror, strong enough to reflect you, and myself. They kissed, and the city moved on. But their story had just begun. Today, they're one of the most powerful legal couples in Lagos. But Olivia never forgot where she came from. She created a scholarship fund for female janitors pursuing law. She partnered with local law schools to provide mentorship for women who had been silenced or shamed. She became a voice, not just in the courtroom, but in every room she entered. Late one evening, as the city lights blinked like stars, Liam joined her on the balcony with a tray of tea. He sat beside her, kissed her forehead, and said, You know what I still can't believe? What? That a mop brought me the love of my life. She smiled, setting her case notes aside. It wasn't the mop, it was the girl behind it. They clinked teacups, and together they watched their forever unfold, not in grand gestures, but in the quiet certainty that they had rewritten the ending. Together. Dear viewers, what lesson did you take away from this dramatic tale? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.